Good morning, you guys. So, for the last not even 24 hours, I've been seeing a lot of things about Laura, Hurricane Laura, and everything about it is just like. So, I've been praying about it and praying for the people there, hoping that they take the advice. I think there's a mandatory evacuation, but I don't know. So I seen this track. This was yesterday. I think BP put this out, but Sister Amanda had shared this a few days ago, and it's a vision I had a couple months ago, I guess, probably longer than that. And I saw she shared it, and I was like, probably she probably shared it like several days ago, but I I I just start remembering what the vision was, and the vision was in that big upper right area there was water. It seemed to be like a New York Harbor area, and there I was zoomed in, and I saw water starting to come out of the concrete, and it's kind of like a zoomed out, and I saw like a line go from up, from the northeast down to Houston and, to the Texas. And it did like a swiggly swirl as if the toilet was flushing. And like I said, it went from like the New York area to down at the, northeast of Texas. And it did like a swiggly swirl. And the next day, in real life, I woke up to news that we had a sinkhole. And I also discovered, and it's near water, it's near the connector that takes you to the beach. And I don't know if our water was off that day or not, but I just remember it being on the news. And I also was looking up liquefaction or liquefaction, and liquefaction is caused, if water's coming out of cement, it either can be caused by like earthquakes or some form of inundation of water. And that's why I felt like there would be an inundation of water starting from like New York back down to Texas. And it went in the opposite direction of, it went from like northeast to down to Texas. So that always kind of bugged me. But sometime after that, we did have a severe weather system that was in that area of rain and so on and so forth. So I believe I did do an update on this. But when I seen the forecast for Hurricane Laura on yesterday, I was just like, wow. Wow. Again, it always bothered me why the water would go backwards, as opposed from left to right. Left to right and left to upright. So I did a side-by-side screenshot, just because it was in my mind. And then Brother Chad Crawford put out a video on his thoughts about Hurricane Laura. And then Julian T, I see this was last night. Julian T put out a video. This was probably the second video. I did go back and watch both of them. But he did, look at the title, Hurricane, Underwater, Eruption, Tsunami Event, and I think fire. I don't know. So I went back to watch the video prior to this. As you can see, this is the Statue of Liberty. And he was talking about first he was talking about George Bush and in Pet Goat 2. Or Pet Goat 1, 2, I don't know which one. But he talked about George Bush and how it's, how coincidentally George Bush's wife is named Laura. And then he shows this tsunami scene where it seems to be like an underwater explosion. And then he shows this where it appears to be the Statue of Liberty, and he shows like that dark spot. There's a dark spot, and there's a mouse. His mouse is pointing to that area here at the down here at the bottom. He shows how that could be a ripple effect. You guys, that vision happened in New York. So it started in New York. So he's kind of making a connection between Hurricane Laura and this water wave ripple effect. And he points out some things, as it relates to at some form of a underwater explosion. And he, like I said, he makes the connection perhaps between Hurricane Laura and this underwater explosion event. So, I kind of take things like that as a grain of salt. But then, with, I kind of realize, anything with having to do with Pet Goat, it was inspired by evil. And they do everything backwards or upside down. So I was kind of thinking, well, there could be a connection between Texas and New York at the same time. And it would make kind of sense how, I saw the water going from the northeast down to Texas. If they're connected, kind of take everything with a grain of salt. But I don't think I've ever seen anyone do anything about the water around the Statue of Liberty in this scene. What else? There was one more thing, I feel. It's going to be a category 4. It's going to be a 3, then 4, then supposedly a 3 again as it reaches the shore of Texas and I guess Louisiana border. But the forecast of it, that was it as of yesterday. We know these things can change. But I guess first and foremost, let's pray for those people who are there on the coast of Georgia and Louisiana. They just don't need that type of thing. Okay. And also, one more thing. Mr. MBB333 put out a video this morning. That's what it was. He put out a video this morning showing an octagon-shaped UFO that was flying over Corpus Christi. And not only that, this thing had like a hexagon shape to it. But then there were other lights surrounding it, one being a V shape, and the other, I think it had like a red light to it. So it wasn't alone, but it was three or four lights all together. These UFO-shaped objects that flew away with no sound, so on and so forth. So you guys, I'll leave those videos below. But something about the storm, regardless whether or not my vision is connected to it, just something about the storm just bothers me. So let's pray for the unsuspecting people there. And also with Julian T, he seems to have found a connection between the RNC and the DNC, perhaps. Like I said, I take those things with a grain of salt when it comes to iPet Goat. But, of course, we know that they telegraph their plans in those things, too. All right, you guys. I'll leave all videos below. Let's pray for those people. All right, you guys. I'll come back and make another video.